but dissatisfied doesn't really do it justice. I mean, such was his dissatisfaction with life. And he was, as he puts it, a master of everything: theology, medicine, law, all these things. And all this knowledge that he accrued of his life only led to him realizing that you can't actually know anything, and where is the meaning in any of it? And this really sort of brought him down to such a low level that he attempts to commit suicide. But he's then saved by a choir of angels. And I think all of this you can hear in the first few minutes of the piece. He's then sort of approached by Mephistopheles, the devil who makes a deal, or suggests a deal, that he'll be his, the devil will serve Faust in life, will show him anything that he wants to see, will show him something that will give him satisfaction in life, if only then Faust would then serve the devil in the beyond, in the afterlife. And Faust says, do you want better? You show me anything that gives me any kind of satisfaction, and let that be my last day. I'll die there and then, and I'll be your servant for what I can only assume to be eternity. And considering Faust is meant to be quite a clever guy, I think it's a really stupid deal to have made. He hates life, right? And so he says, you show me that life is worth living, and then I'll die. I just think it's like it's an act of passionate desperation that he agrees to this, or not even agrees to it, kind of like suggested that himself. And the devil's like, that's great, I accept that straight away. Then the devil sort of takes them on this journey. He shows them these various scenes, and this travelling side of the piece is very much depicted in the first movement. And of course, it never reaches any kind of satisfactory moment. I think lots of music is based around the highest point, and it never really seems to reach that. Possibly this is why the piece never really kind of took off. People listened to it and just didn't feel satisfied. And that to me is the success of this piece, because that's exactly what it's trying to bring across. We have this huge sort of build-up, which kind of ends with Faust back to his dark, gloomy thoughts. This is just pointless. Until we hear Gretchen's theme. We have nothing in the first one is particularly melodic, apart from this one theme that we hear a few times in the end. And as we go on to the second movement, we discover that this is Gretchen's theme. So for me, I feel that this is the moment when Faust, after being dragged around all the world by the devil, he just bumps into Gretchen, and he thinks maybe there is a point to living. So the second movement takes this theme, and I think describes sort of Gretchen's innocence, naivety, and it's also a deeply romantic opening. And the devil, upon meeting Gretchen, really doesn't like her, because Gretchen is just so pure. He says to Faust, look, Faust basically wants the devil to set them up, and the devil goes even I can't do it. It's just. No wingman is that good, she's just too good. I have no authority over her. But Faust sort of doesn't take no for an answer, and then eventually he concocts some sort of plan, and Faust and Gretchen fall in love. And then what then happens to Gretchen, basically, sort of long story short, Faust kills her brother, impregnates Gretchen. Gretchen kills her own son, and also kills her mother as well, and ends up insane in a dungeon, awaiting her execution. And so really, it just doesn't end well for her at all. And I think, again, sort of this darkness, this shadow of the devil, sort of basically ruining everyone's lives, again, is depicted in the second movement as well. Finally, we do actually have a return to Gretchen's opening theme, and this maybe, and perhaps I'm trying to draw connections where Rachmaninov just thought, it's just a simple sort of ternary form I'm going to adopt here. But I think possibly Gretchen does sort of, after her execution, she does sort of come back and saves Faust's soul. So this could have been, again, an inspiration for Rachmaninov. Finally, we come to the third movement, and this is the Devil's movement, Mephistopheles. quite similar in some ways to Lucifer's Banjo, I think, actually. It starts off incredibly passionate and fueled by a real sort of fiery rage. I think Mephistopheles is the only sort of angel who doesn't kind of suck up to God, basically. God asks his other angels, how was the earth? And the angels say, oh yeah, it looks really good, and nature is fantastic. And Mephistopheles says, yeah, but, the humans are all rubbish. I mean, they're all really corruptible, and they're a stain on it. And this is actually kind of how the whole thing started off, because God says, well, look at Faust. Faust is like, the best human out there. There's no way you could do anything to make his life any worse. And Mephistopheles like, all right, you're on, So that's kind of how it started, I think. And well, of course, he's very angry as well, because, he was the God's favorite angel cast out of heaven. There's a lot for him to be furious about. The third one also looks at the devil's not brighter side, more sort of comic side, his humour. Many people, I think, describe the devil as being darkly humorous, and this is very much in evidence in this piece as well. Also, there's moments of absolute elation, triumph, until we're reminded of why he is feeling so elated or why he's feeling so triumphant. The effect that he's had on someone else's life that caused him such joy is obviously absolutely sadistic. I like to think of the third movement as sort of being the same story told in the first two movements, but from a different perspective, from the perspective of the devil. The reason I say that is because many of the motifs, the ideas, the tunes, are taken from the first two movements and are pretty much replicated, note for note, in the third, but within a much darker context. And we kind of have the impression by the end that the devil was sort of behind it all. This was all his design. Anyway, I very much hope you enjoy this piece. One last thing I'd like to say, actually, is the reason I think Rachmaninov wrote this piece and why he based it on Faust, the story of Faust. I think not only Rachmaninov, but we can all relate to wondering what's the point. Where is the meaning in anything that we do? Why do we work so hard? Why do we try? Because there's no difference. There's no meaning. This is very much what Faust battled with. And Rachmaninov absolutely battled with it himself. He had terrific, catastrophic failures that plunged him into insanely deep depression. And from it, as a great example, he managed to come out with Rach 2, which everybody knows, his second piano concerto. And I think he managed to come out with the first sonata. And I think the thing to take away from this is that that wouldn't have been possible had he not felt so terrible, so confused, and so in search of any kind of meaning in what he was doing. I'm sure we've all felt like that at some point, and I think Rachmaninov is an amazing example of how, not despite of this, but because of that, he created some of the most incredible art that will stay with us for centuries. I said enough.